Hey everybody, we're going to be trying out this recorded lecture, see how it goes, so you just have to bear with me, okay? What we're going to be looking at today is the judicial branch, which is the third branch of the federal government. We've already hit the legislative branch and executive branch. Now it's the judicial branch's turn. The United States has a dual court system. What do I mean by dual courts? Well, it's a two-court system where we have state courts, which get their power from the state constitutions, and then we have the federal court system, which gets its power from the U.S. Constitution. So we call this a dual court system. Every court has what we call jurisdiction, and there's different types of jurisdiction. What does that term mean? Jurisdiction simply means who has the power to hear a case. So jurisdiction, who has the power to hear a case? And there's different types of jurisdiction. We have original jurisdiction, which is who gets to hear a case first. If it's the first, it's original. We have appellate jurisdiction, which hears appeals. We have exclusive jurisdiction, which is only that case, only that court can hear that case. Exclusive, it's the only one. And then we have concurrent jurisdiction, which is more than one court has the option of hearing it. The best example for that is if residents of two different states are suing each other and the value of their lawsuit exceeds $75,000, then the state courts could hear it or the federal courts can hear it. The federal courts have exclusive jurisdiction in a variety of cases, and it depends on either the subject matter or who is involved in this case. With the subject matter, if it deals with federal laws or the U.S. Constitution, then it's going to be a federal court. If the government or one of its agencies, like the EPA, is being sued or is suing, then it's going to be a federal case. Or if it's an ambassador, or if it's a state suing another state, then the federal government has jurisdiction in this, exclusive jurisdiction. Now, the U.S. Constitution simply says we're going to have a Supreme Court and other courts. Let's take a look at what the Constitution actually says. It says, let me get to it, I went too far. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. That's it. That's all it says. We're going to have Supreme Court and we're going to have other courts. So let me get back to this. Sorry. So Congress passed the Judiciary Act of 1789. This established that three-tiered court system. And let's go through these three tiers. At the lowest level, we have district courts. District courts have original jurisdiction, which means what? They're the first to hear a case. Yep. They are the lowest level. They're at the bottom part of this three-tiered system. Every state gets at least one district court. Missouri has two. In the middle of this three-tiered system, we have appeals courts. There's a total of 13 circuit courts of appeals. There's a total of 13 courts of appeals, 12 circuit courts of appeals, and then one court of appeal for the federal circuit. This Court of Appeal for the Federal Circuit, they handle specialized issues like patents and copyrights. And then, as we all know, at the top of this three-tiered system, we have the Supreme Court. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they have appellate jurisdiction. They will just hear appeals from other courts. But they do have original jurisdiction in some cases. We will get into more detail about the Supreme Court later. Congress has also established other courts. We call these Article I courts because Article I is the legislative branch, and the legislative branch created these courts. The bankruptcy court, tax courts, veterans claims, courts for the courts of appeals for the armed forces. These are all just other courts. Let me show you a map of these district courts. And I'm going to have to zoom in on it, so just give me a second. But here's a map of the United States. And if you notice, Missouri right here, there's a small gray dotted line, which means we have two circuit courts. We have an Eastern Court and a Western District Court. Some states have no dotted lines through it, which means they just have one. Washington has two, California has 1, 2, 3, 4. So it just depends on the state. Now let me get back to the slide. And if you look at this chart, you will see the flow of court cases from different courts. Most all start at the district courts, go to the courts of appeals, and then it goes to the Supreme Court. But there are instances where cases can skip certain courts and go straight to the Supreme Court. You can pause the video and look at this more if you would like. What are the qualifications to be a federal judge? There are none. Zero. Zilch. The Constitution doesn't mention any qualifications to be a judge. So how do we pick judges? What do presidents look at when deciding who to nominate for to be on the federal bench? There's a couple things that they look at. One, legal expertise. Have they been a lawyer before? Are they currently a judge? How long have they been? Presidents also look at the political party. Are they a Republican or a Democrat? What's their judicial philosophy? Do they believe in judicial restraint, which is not overturning precedent, which is not changing things? Think about that term. If you are restrained, you are held back. Or are they a judicial activist, which they are pushing for change, where they are actively involved? We've talked about this term, strict constructionist and loose constructionist. Strict constructionist is basically the same thing as an originalist. How do they interpret the Constitution? And we know a strict constructionist is black and white. A loose constructionist is open to interpretations depending on the time of the time frame that we're looking at. And then we look at precedent, respect a precedent. What does that mean? Are they willing to overturn previous court decisions? Precedent simply means previous court decisions. And are they willing to overturn their fellow justices who came before them? What are the salaries? Take a look. Anywhere from $216,000 all the way up to $277,000 if you're the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, if you're John Roberts. There are some judges who get paid less than $216,000. They're going to be, for the most part, Article 1 court judges, but it does vary. One of the important powers of the federal courts is the power of judicial review. And we know this from previous class times that judicial review is the power to declare executive and legislative acts unconstitutional. That is the one power the federal courts have over the other two branches. They can declare their laws, they can declare executive actions unconstitutional. Now, what do the other two branches have on the judicial branches? Well, the appointment. The president nominates someone and the Senate must confirm them. Congress can also impeach judges. And if the Supreme Court declares a law unconstitutional, Congress and the president and the states can turn that law into an amendment, and then it becomes constitutional because it's in the Constitution. That wraps up Section 1. I hope you understand. And if you have any questions, just ask. Have a good day.